Another episode of Data Shark. Very exciting guest today, Joel Barel. Thank you for taking time to sit and chat. Well, we'll see what we'll talk about. Joel is a serial entrepreneur, highly experienced in tech, and we'll talk about data and retail and entrepreneurship. But maybe we will start with your recent passion, knowledge transfer.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. I am now establishing a center for knowledge transfer, what you call, between more experienced entrepreneurs and young CEOs and aspiring entrepreneurs. So it's a center that will work in the north of Israel, in the Galilee area. It's a 1 week offsite, Sunday to Thursday, full week of injection of experience, know-how, tools, coupled with experiences.
So it's a fixed program. How do you?
It's a fixed program. We have partners from the leading firms in Israel who are surrounding every CEO and entrepreneur, whether it's the leading law firms, VCs, auditors, banks. I will be there, of course, and then trying to bring entrepreneurship and building specifically technology companies in the right way. When I say the right way, is not falling into hidden traps, pitfalls, places that we have been there, done that, already suffered, burned, and
isn't that part of the process? We all need to suffer during the process somehow.
I mean, suffering as an entrepreneur is unavoidable, but we are trying to make it less painful. So at least the big pitfalls to try and circumvent and go around them. Some mistakes that entrepreneurs and young CEOs do are irreversible. So those little burns that you have, that is part of the journey, you'll still have that, but at least you will have a good chance of getting to the end of a scalable, successful company, rather than doing fatal mistakes that later on will jeopardize either the company or the stakeholders in terms of their stake and equity in the company.
Interesting. So it's like a sprint that will take a young entrepreneur and turn them into a more established, with potential to be successful.
There will be better people, first and foremost. It's all about leadership. It's all about elevating their ability to lead and to manage. Maybe it's a bombastic word, but trying to make them better people and creating also an impact on the environment, impact for the company itself, but also giving them know-how and tools that are very practical. So it's not academia, it's not learning theories, it's really how to do. I was an entrepreneur. I took a presentation with an idea and brought it to a few $1 billion value of company, a big unicorn trucks, and effectively is trying to give them the real secret sauce of what they need to do on the daily days in order to become successful in their own enterprise.
Amazing, isn't it? It's very commendable, building the next generation of entrepreneurs. I think that the country needs it.
Yeah. The slogan we put is from founders to founders.
Nice.
That's kind of the theme.
Well, so you mentioned trucks, and the purpose of at least this conversation from my perspective is to learn a little bit about what trucks was doing, what it still does, how it connects to data and the utilization of data, and eventually driving decision making, which is kind of the theme of this blog and what we're trying to share and kind of learn. So maybe start there. Like, what was the trigger to start Trucks?
So Trucks started in Singapore in late 2010. The idea behind Trucks is actually not coming from me. It's coming from my co-founder in Trucks, Dror. And he was working many years in the fast-moving goods industry. He learned firsthand about the hardships of retail execution in the physical store. Today, there are 60 million physical stores around the globe. And for large corporations and brands, it's very difficult to control what is happening to their products in those stores. Who are they competing with? How is the level of execution, pricing, shelving, and a lot of other parameters? I came with a technology solution of using computer vision to actually look virtually on those products in order to gain insights and analytics. And we established Trax. Trax, the first client of ours was Procter & Gamble, which is the largest company in the world. So it is a smart decision that we made back then to start with them. And they helped us to shape a platform that really changed the way brands are today executing in the marketplace. So this is how it started.
So what exactly do? You basically look at shelves inside retail
So we
stores?
harness the employees of our clients. So every large brand, whether it's a Coca-Cola or a Procter & Gamble, they have sales reps. They have people who are going to the stores on regular cadence. It can be once a day, once a week, once a month. When they're in the store, they take out the wonderful invention called smartphone, and they take pictures, images of those shelves. And when we started, it was more or less iPhone 1 or 2. It's like the early beginning of smartphones. We were the first to use a smartphone in that for that function. And they take pictures, and those pictures are analyzed in real time. And we provide statistic analytics and recommendations in real time to those sales reps in the store. Later on, we can also, of course, aggregate multiple stores to find patterns and recurring events.
So before we dive into the data and the data you guys collect, just to make sure that I understand. So basically, I'm standing in front of the shelf, I'm taking pictures of where my products are, and then I'll get some insights on how should I rearrange it, how should I place it, what's the use case?
So simplistically, yes, you said it correctly. We don't take images just of your products. You're taking pictures of the whole category. So you see also your competition. And the use case is finding patterns and finding execution gaps from your plan. So every company has a plan. What is the right pricing for my products? Where they should be located? How many products there should be in every given meter or aisle? What are the must-have items that I should have in this specific store? So obviously the world of retail is quite complex, but just imagine Coca-Cola. They have 330 milliliter Coke can. That is the most sellable SKU in the world. They sell about 100 billion of those cans every year.
Not too bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Good to be Coca-Cola.
So if you go to a store and that product is not on shelf, this is a big red flag for Coca-Cola, right? They need to ensure, why is it not there? Is it a supply chain issue? Is it competition issue, etc.? They also pay for shelf space. So those payments needs to be justified. If we correlate our data from shelves to sales data, we can show what is the optimum between those payments and the turnout in the cash register. They look at competition. Assortment is the variety of product that exist on the shelf. They can look on their assortment versus their competitors' assortment. And then they can find gaps. Those gaps can be used as defensive mechanism. That means competitor have a product that I don't. I should put mine so they don't choose only his. And also offensive. So if I see a product line that my competitor do not have on the shelf, I will put it in because I will be the only vendor that sells it in that store. So this is just few use cases. There are hundreds and hundreds of use cases of how to use the data.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It actually triggers so many questions that I have as follow-ons, but I'll hold back for now. So you mentioned, let's start with computer vision. So, we're in the world that AI is practically everything, and we're almost going to be obsolete as humans, as people think. But I'm not so sure that everybody knows that computer vision is one of the preliminary AI capabilities that is out there for probably decades today. So what's unique about the computer vision that you brought into the company?
Not to get too technical, but our task of breaking the barrier of recognizing product to the SKU level. SKU is like a barcode, the singular product, was groundbreaking. In the area of computer vision, it's called fine grain recognition. Think about dogs. We are not recognizing the dog, the animal. We are not recognizing Cocker Spaniels. We are recognizing Tommy, a specific Cocker Spaniel that belongs to someone. So with SKUs, with products, many products looks alike. There are many products that are hard to differentiate even with the human eye. what are the difference between them, and all computer vision algorithms, including images, are scale agnostic. So some products are exactly identical, just different size, but you cannot see it from a picture. So the task of identifying those products in that fine granularity is very, very difficult. Imagine also that 30% of SKUs in a store change every year, and imagine that you need to transmit the data to the cloud, and therefore we reduce the resolution from 6-7 megapixels to about 400 to 500K. So there's not a lot of data in the images for that recognition. So that's kind of the task we took upon ourselves. To be honest, looking backwards, we didn't know at the time. We took an impossible mission. When we started trucks, there was no technology in existence that could do that task in the right level of accuracy. Luckily for us, few years later, 3 years later, somebody in Canada invented deep learning. We were the first to harness deep learning, and since then, obviously, we made our proprietary algorithms and AI engines that today we have 98, 99% accuracy in all level of stores, in all sizes, all types of cameras, and all type of lightings.
So you basically took computer vision to retail. What could there be in another industry that you can, in a way, disrupt with that technology?
Unfortunately, we couldn't find one. We looked every investor when we raised a lot of money in trucks. Every investor asked the same question. Most problems are too simple. That means you don't have a real differentiator. Take, for example, a sensor for a car that needs to recognize road signs. There are about 120 road signs. They don't change. They change once a decade. Maybe there is a new road sign. In retail, we have millions of products, and they look alike. Road signs don't look alike. There is a lot of parameters that are really unique for retail. And in order to do that fine-grained recognition effectively, it's also understanding the context. The context is the part where AI really plays a role. And this is where, until today, no other company in the world even comes close to trucks when it comes to our accuracy of recognizing products. We understand that heavy products are placed on lower shelves, for example, so they don't fall. So if we see two products, one is up, one is down, we understand that. We understand that smaller packages have lower pricing than bigger packages. We understand thousands of those real-life rules in order to make that final judgment, which exact SKU is it. When we see a juice with mango or orange, in a picture you cannot see, right? We don't use OCR. Images are taken from a distance. We take between dozens and even hundreds of SKUs in one image, and we still need to recognize each one of them. So there's a lot of knowledge and experience in that.
Well, luckily, retail is quite a significant
it's the largest industry
category,
in the world.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's plenty of things to do. So you mentioned context, and I think that's something that would be very interesting to expand on in the context of AI.
Yeah.
So all of us are very used to ChatGPT today, but ChatGPT eventually requires context to understand what we're looking for, what's the next question we might want to ask, and so on. How is it translated in computer vision? What's the context that you're trying to identify?
We are trying to teach the system what are the physical rules of retail. And physical doesn't have to be physical, it can be non-physical, but kind of what are the rules of engagement. For example, you always, as I said before, you want large products to be on the bottom shelves. You understand that marketing materials in retail, that was a problem, it was very hard for us to solve, are images of products which are placed on the shelf. And the computer vision engine needs to understand what is an image of a product and what is an image of a product. So these are the type of context that we need to understand, to explain, and we need to teach the engine what is an advertisement poster, how an image that is in a picture looks like, what is an empty space. Imagine just a simple parameter. The human brain actually look on the context first. It looks on the surrounding and then zoom in into specifics. I can zoom in, I can see the crowd and zoom in on a specific person. A computer vision algorithm is exactly the opposite. It starts from a pixel and then try to build around that pixel some kind of a shape to identify that shape and then go to other pixels and build that scenario. So when it comes to computer vision world, there is basically some products he identifies and everything around it is empty space. But specifically in retail, empty space between product has a special meaning. This is a product missing on shelf. So you need to find the algorithm that will identify what is a real missing empty space in a shelf and what is an empty space in the image which is not related. There's a lot of that reality that needs to be translated into a computer vision type algorithm so that he will know to interpret the image to the real life or a retailer or a manufacturer and give them statistics and data that they can relate to and understand what the image is about.
Super interesting. So what happened before trucks? How did people actually make those decisions?
So the prominent way of working before trucks was pen and paper. Literally, they took pen and paper and sat in front of the shelf because it's very time consuming. They did it maybe twice a year, not every week or every day. And they took notes, what products are on the shelf. Again, because it's very expensive, it takes a lot of time. Those sales rep were only focusing on their own products. There was complete completely ignoring all the competitors. So they were not even measuring themselves versus the competitors. So if suddenly sales grew, you don't know it's because you're doing great or because the category grew 10 times, you grew only 10% and the rest went for your competition. So pen and paper was the providence.
It's interesting. So basically with AI, data, some analytics, you completely transformed an industry.
Yes, we completely transformed the industry of the way they go to market in physical store, which is the entire industry. I mean, even today, only about 9% of grocery is bought online. Still over 90% is in physical stores. And we completely transformed the way they go to market. Their salaries, their performance, everything is now tracked by trucks and measured by us.
Incredible, unbelievable, amazing. So let's talk about decision making in that context. So before that, pen and paper, I was sitting in front of the shelf maybe once a month, once 6 months. I see that my products are placed on the wrong shelf with the wrong price, with the wrong whatever, which probably cost a lot of money. The return on investment was unmeasurable because by the time I received all the information, maybe from the point of sale of how many Diet Cokes were sold, it was too late to make a change. Yes. And in today's world, decisions can happen in maybe near real time, so I can change lots of things. So what would be the KPIs or the matrices that your customers will measure themselves against?
This is the amazing thing or astonishing thing about the human mind. We try to articulate all those KPIs when we made our presentations and sales speeches, etc. And it was very hard for us to make the first sale. We did pilots, we did this, but no company would commit for a long-term product production, day in, day out. And until we found that first customer, and at that time we already did that approach, didn't work, and I came with a single KPI. I told him, we are going to increase your sales by 3 to 5%. He asked me, are you sure? And I said, in the Israeli confident, chutzpah, yes, I'm sure. He was the first client. There was nobody before. And he took it and he signed it. And he signed the contract. We grew their sales on the first year by about 4%. So we made the promise. We were selected the vendor of the year. That was Coca-Cola in Australia.
Wow.
We were the vendor of the year. We went to get an award. We got a trophy. And then it was all downhill from there. So at the end of the day, yes, everything you said is correct. There's multiple KPIs. At the end of the day, they only care about sales. And we can increase sales. And this is what we are measured about.
Interesting. So eventually, it's all about better decision making, right? Pen and paper, you can make decisions as far as your mind can can grab. I'm sure that there's billions of data attributes that you collect on, I don't know, daily basis, monthly basis.
Yeah, we have in our databases around 40 trillion SKUs that were recognized over the years.
So you basically built maybe the largest worldwide catalog
exactly.
of retail inventory.
Yeah.
Is that a product that you offer? Can I...
We tried, I mean, we thought about it many years, so how to monetize it, right? How to make money, like extra revenue stream from that. To be honest, we haven't done it so far, but it always remains an opportunity. But the question is how to monetize it. It requires a lot of investment in really taking that data and making it accessible in an easy way. 40 trillion is a big number, but as much as it's valuable, it's also difficult to manage. So we are still making headways and growing our market traditionally with our own products, and we still haven't tapped into the monetization of the data that we own.
So as an AI expert, maybe one of the very first people to actually implement AI in production, in real use cases, where do you think we're heading? Are we as humans going to be obsolete? Is it about universal income, sitting on the beach with margaritas, and the world will be managed by aliens?
So I'm not a prophet, so I'm not sure I can see the future, but I definitely see, I think, where it's coming or going in the next few years. I'm not a big fan of AI. Sorry to maybe
burst the bubble.
To burst
Thank
the
you
bubble.
very much.
I think AI is at the end of the day manifestation of data that was created by humans in order to for in news and internet and everything around us. So the AI machine doesn't create anything on its own. I mean, maybe in the future it will, but today it takes references, get context, and can articulate elements by understanding what the end user would like to see, and taking that reference data and manipulating it to show something which looks similar to what he thinks he was asked to do.
Right.
Using this method, first of all, it's a great tool, assistance tool. So assisting tasks, assisting developers, assisting anyone to get data and to get answers and to find things and to generate things, that is definitely a technology that will be with us forever, just like the internet. The internet, if you remember, before the internet, we were using to open encyclopedia, we were opening almanacs, we were opening atlas to find, or maps to find our way, and now it's all digital. We are asking, but we are not saying that the internet replaced geography, right? It didn't replace history. It's just manifesting it in a better way. The risk with AI is that it generates so much content, it's very hard to determine which content was created by humans and which content was created by AI, who took other content that was created by human and manipulated it. Right. So as the human content becomes a fraction of the overall content, which was AI generated, AI will start to use data that he himself or it itself created. And that will deviate our perception of reality in places that we cannot foresee today. So imagine now that you are asking AI to a question about Henry Kissinger. I don't know why this name came to my head. It gives you a pretty accurate response. Even today it's not accurate, but let's say pretty accurate. Maybe in 5 years' time, it'll be a complete bogus response, because the real data will be 1% and 91% will be AI-generated data, and AI engines will train on the 100%. And that will create a deviation of our perception of reality.
Well, that's a very scary thought. Thank you for that. So it's almost apocalyptic what you're describing. Is there a way for us to control where AI is headed?
I think there are two forces that can control it. The first is the legislation, the government, and governance. That means probably at some point human-generated data will be differentiated from AI-generated data, and human-generated data will also go through some scrutiny. I think the scrutiny today is starting to appear. I mean, there is content filtering both in Facebook, in all the social media, that to prevent lies and to prevent complete distortion of reality. If somebody will say that, I don't know, Barack Obama is, kidnapping babies, I think there will be content filters that will take those news out. It will be better scrutiny what is human and what is AI. And I think there will be islands or startups that will create verified content and probably led by the giants today, Google, Facebook, other data sources that will verify for us, the consumer, what is genuine and what is not. Most likely, the most prominent platforms will be social platforms, just like Wikipedia, where the content is governed by the community rather than by incorporation. And Wikipedia, as an example, it can be a beacon for such an environment.
Interesting. I agree with some of it. I don't want to be too philosophical, but my biggest concern is trusting governments to eventually do what's right. I'm not so sure history tells us that they're very good at doing that. So I wonder if we as maybe tech industry need to also own some of that journey.
It depends on how high you look. If you look in the history, if you look a bit higher from the space, for example, you will see that overall governments led the world to be safer, healthier, longevity, and advances that are today happening without disruption all over the world. So yes, governments are not perfect, but they are the best we have today in order to make rational decisions.
Fair enough. It's definitely a thought-provoking idea. I'm not so sure about the government of Israel. And without
not
being
every
too political,
government,
exactly.
Right? We're talking about averages here.
Yes.
There's always the extremes. Those extremes will not last. I don't know if this talk is political or not, but extremist government, whether it's extremist to the right or to the left, at the end of the day will perish very fast, because at the end of the day, it's in a democracy, if it's not a totalitarian country, the citizens, the civilians will elect a government which will tip the pendulum back to the center, and like any physical system, equilibrium of energy will prevail.
Well, you definitely balance the apocalyptic AI story with some positive narratives about extreme governments. I'll take that. So the world of decision making. So we talked about data and collecting data. I think retail is a fascinating industry that making decisions or data-driven decisions is definitely in the foundation of growing this industry. Selling more, building more, leveraging more of the interaction between the store and the traffic of the customers and the CPG, the consumer packaged goods people. What is maybe you have an example of the craziest decision that was made using trucks? Or the most profound one. I mean, you talked about growing sales.
A funny one.
Funny is good.
We did a project for a company in the UK, I won't mention names, that sells cat food. This is little cans with disgusting food inside that cats love. And they wanted to know how to perfect their shelves so they can sell more cat food. We did the analysis of the images and saw exactly where they are and where the competition. We are doing it in a very large scale. Trucks today digitize at 3.5 million stores every month. So it's a big scale. So in the UK, we did it on tens of thousands of stores for a few months. And then we correlated with sales. And we found out that they have a main competitor. They were a European company. Their main competitor is a US-based company that both of them obviously sell retail all over the world. And we saw that if they are sitting on the shelf in a proximity to their competitors, they sell less. But if they are in two different sides of the shelves, that means they are quite distinct with a big gap between them, they sell more. So somehow if the consumer sees them next to the competitor, he will choose the competitor. But if it's not, then the consumer, the ones at least that are coming on the aisle, and see them first, they will pick that and they will not change it later. They will just move to the next thing they want to buy and they will not do more. So they will sell more. And based on these results, they paid money for the retailers in the UK to ensure on-the-shelf performance that they are placed as far away as possible from the competition. So here you go, an AI-driven real-life story, which is a funny outcome, but works.
Amazing. It's funny, but it also it's the power of data. Eventually, I think it's super exciting. I read about the creation or one of the ideas behind the creation of the algorithm, the next best offer. And one of the stories is that they checked it in Japan on men that were buying diapers. And what they were usually buying with the diapers was a six-pack beer. Why? Eventually to compensate for the fact that they had to go to the store sent by their wife to buy diapers. So here I am, I'm the man, I'm also buying myself a six-pack. And that's how they pushed six-pack together with diapers. There was a coupon for six-packs together with Huggies or whatever diapers.
Exactly.
No, it's fascinating. I mean, the more, obviously, the more data you have that comes from all kinds of places, shelf placement and competition and sizes of the can, and is it cat or dog or is it next to the fish? Completely change eventually the way you go to market. So I think maybe last question on decision making. What's the next step? So
for decision making?
No, for using data with computer vision in retail stores. What would be the next step?
I think the one pillar in the equation that is still not tapped is the end consumer. So we track now today the cash registers. We know exactly what is being bought, etc. We know what is on the shelf by trucks. We know exactly the location. Nobody still harnessed the consumer to understand how the consumer thinks. And by providing computer vision to consumers so they can see in a digital way in the physical store what are the attributes that are important to them that exist or manifested in those products in front of them. Maybe they want gluten-free. Maybe they want non-animal origin. Maybe they are religious and they want kosher or halal food. Maybe they want products which are natural or have less sugar or more. All of that data can be placed in front of the consumer when they make the decision what to buy. That is the moment of truth for those consumers when they pick the products they choose. And I think that is the next phase. The next phase is when we have that, then we have a better understanding how people think. And obviously the next phase after that is to manipulate how people will think. So they choose what they need to choose. They cannot deviate from what was destined for them at the end of the day.
Well, incredible. We'll finish with that thought of we're going to manipulate people's minds on what to buy and we'll shove it down their throat. Thank you very much. Joe, thank you. That was fascinating. Thanks for coming and thanks for sharing. Much appreciated.
Yeah, and thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
Thanks.